We have worked together over the last year or so to try to clarify what the community's expectations are with respect to the Stonegarden grant. And I think we've done some very good work in that regard. When I took office, we had no racial profiling policy. None, it did not exist. We were unaware of the community's expectation for transparency, what you wanted to know as far as data with respect to our activities in the Stonegarden grant program. We now have a much better grasp of those issues, and we've implemented systems to track and to better account for those data points that you're concerned about. Previously, we never even tracked how many times my department called Border Patrol. We now know since last March that 85% of the time that we do call Border Patrol, it's at the request of a migrant that's lost or abandoned in the desert and requesting assistance. We have tried very hard to be responsive to the community concerns regarding the Stonegarden grant program. A lot of this is new, and it's very easy to look in the rearview mirror and say that we could have or should have counted this or could have or should have done these things in the past. But there was no community interest in doing those things previously. So the department did not capture data that we should have been capturing. We did not engage in a level of transparency that perhaps we should have been. What we're looking at today is not what we've done in the past, which is not predictive in this case of what we'll do in the future. What we're doing today is deciding whether or not the department should, or rather this body should, recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of this grant program. And that has got to be necessarily with a forward-looking focus, because that's about what the grant is about. It's about future funding. And we have made a commitment to this body to work with you, to be transparent, to count things that we've never counted. I'll give you just a few examples of what those things are. We had never previously counted, because we were unaware of the community's concern about this, those instances where we make a traffic stop that does not result in a citation. Those were not adequately tracked. We were not adequately tracking the differentiation between when we turn somebody over to Border Patrol as a proactive matter versus when we encounter migrants that surrender to us as a matter of wanting assistance. Those things are not the same things. We didn't count those in a manner that was quantifiable. I want to be sure that the data that we provide to this body now and in the future is accurate, that it actually represents apples and apples county and oranges county, so that we know what we're talking about. I've spoke with great conviction and passion about the efficacy and the value that I find in this body. When we were the Club C in the original composition, the purpose behind this body was to provide me as your sheriff with information and community sentiment regarding departmental activities. We did good work in that capacity. We did. We were making great progress. And then we repurposed to be a grant reviewing body. What I would ask is that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of this grant program with a forward focus, not looking in the rearview mirror, but looking at how Pima County can be better, more transparent, how we can work with the community to make this a more successful program, to allay community concerns. It's very easy to look backward and say we coulda, shoulda, woulda. But let's look forward. What I propose is that as we look forward, with a forward focus to how we implement this funding, that we make a commitment to having monthly meetings in which I will appear before this board with statistical data that is relevant to the board, which is relevant to this body, about our previous month's activities. And as you make me aware that you need more data or that we need increased transparency, I will direct my staff to count those. Previously, the only things that were counted were those things that were on the DARs, which were driven by another body, not driven by us. That was driven by an outside entity. It was what they wanted to count. It's what they deemed to be important, and it was what they deemed to be quantifiable. Those are not the things that are concerning to Pima County. I'm now more aware than ever of what those things are. So I'm making a commitment to you that we will count those things and we'll become more transparent. There has been an opaque nature to this grant program in the past, and you're correct about that. And that is because for a decade, more than a decade, there had not been community inquiry. That in fact this grant program rode the consent agenda and was quietly approved year after year and for more than a decade. We can get caught up and mired down in little nuances of the grant program, such as whether we get 100% reimbursement for this, and we can go into a bean counting mode with respect to this grant program that I think is displaced. One thing that we do know about this grant program is that we have obtained over the last 12 years $6 million of equipment as part of the Operation Stonegarden grant that has kept us safer, that has made my deputies safer, that has made me able to operate a more efficient department. And moving forward, we will enjoy the ability to have additional equipment, which does offset some of the collateral costs. I've been in constant conversations with Washington, D.C. as a member of the Major County Sheriffs of America and the Arizona State Sheriff's Association. And there is movement in Washington, D.C. to understand that we do need to address some of these peripheral and collateral costs that are real. And some of those things are prosecutorial costs, unreimbursed or not completely reimbursed personnel costs. We have Washington, D.C.'s ear on these things. But I urge you to understand that when we refused the previous grant money, that money made a big lap and went to FEMA in Washington, D.C. and came all the way back to Arizona for reallocation. $700,000 of the money that was to be distributed to Pima County was instead distributed to Pinal County to upfit their aircraft. That's money that should have resided here, and it should have been our equipment money, not Pinal County. Currently, Pinal County's aircraft that is funded by Operation Stonegarden in collaboration with the Border Patrol is flying missions in Pima County that has no transparency to any of you. We don't know what they're doing. I know they're flying missions in our county, but I don't have a grasp of when, where, how, or what they're doing. We want transparency. I want transparency. We will not gain transparency by walking away. We'll simply abdicate that money to others, and we will have no sense of transparency. You'll have no sense of ability to guide our operations or to give us input into those things that concern you. If we are an Operation Stonegarden agency, you do have transparency and you do have a voice at the table in these meetings because we will be a Stonegarden participant. Right now, we don't have a voice at that table because we're not a participant agency. Rejecting this money, a recommendation of a rejection of this money, does nothing positive for Pima County. It does not increase transparency. It does not ameliorate in any measurable way some practices, policies, and rhetoric out of Washington, D.C. that are troubling to members of our community. It does nothing to fix any of those things. It simply denies funding to the people of Pima County. And let me be perfectly clear. I believe in and I love the people who work for the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I do. I've been a law enforcement officer for a very, very long time. I've worked on 4 law enforcement agencies, and I've never had the pleasure, the honor of working with a more dedicated group of professionals than the men and women of the Pima County Sheriff's Department. My friends, we are better served. Our community is better served. The migrant community is better served. People of color are better served when our brave men and women of the Pima County Sheriff's Department are out there. Because they are our neighbors, they're our friends, they're our softball coach, they're members of our community. We do not want to misdirect this to have our funding go to others that are not members of our community, that we do not have the same level of confidence in that I do of the people of the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I am your sheriff, I'm an elected official. I have no desire nor designs to be a federal anything. But this is my home. I've lived in this valley for 32 years. My family lives here. My granddaughter lives here. Long after I'm not the sheriff of this county, this is still my home, and I care deeply about what happens here. And I think those of you who know me, and several of you know me for quite some long time, know where my heart is. It's very easy to find. It's on my sleeve. And some of the disagreements that we currently have are stirred up not because you don't know me or don't know what I care about in this community, but because of things that are happening thousands of miles from here, rhetoric and things that concern all of us. What I invite you to do is to move forward. Let's recommend approval of this Stonegarden grant to the Board of Supervisors, and then hold me accountable, as you should, as an elected official and as your sheriff, to maintaining that level of transparency that you care about, to documenting our activities, to amending our practices and policies in a manner that the community finds more agreeable. We now have a policy on the department that did not exist before, and that policy says that we will not ask immigration status of victims or witnesses of crime, that we will not ask immigration status of people on the school grounds. that we will not linger about or deploy our resources at Border Patrol's check stations. We have made progress. ICE representatives are no longer embedded in our jail. We still fully cooperate with our federal partners. We do. I have an affirmative and legal responsibility to do so. But I answered the community concern about the embedding of them in our detention facility. I have been responsive to the needs of the community in a broad sense. So I invite you to do the right thing. I invite you to lay politics aside. I invite you to be at the table. I invite you to have your voice heard. Let's be better than the national landscape. Let's be better as Pima County. And let's show that we can take something that is controversial, bring the community together, all different voices of our community. That's what activism is about, in my measure of estimation, is being heard and having all divergent views at the table to guide public policy, to guide your law enforcement officials, to make this a safer and better county for everyone. And that is my goal. I'm in the twilight of my career life, and that's for sure. And I care deeply about what happens, and moving us forward means a lot to me. And I think together, this body with the Sheriff's Department can move us forward. And with that, I'll conclude my remarks. I appreciate your indulgence in allowing me to speak. I look forward to the prospect of working with this body to address community concerns, to increase transparency, and to move us forward. Let's approve the Operation Stonegarden grant because it is fundamentally the right thing to do for public safety, it's the right thing to do for the migrant community, and it's the right voice and the right message to send to the community in a broader sense, that we can work together, not in opposition, not at one another's throats, but work together to make this a better county. Thank you.